So, how does a kingdom go from the high of winning its independence to, well, to total annihilation in just over 100 years? We're going to trace that exact journey, step by disastrous step. And our guide isn't some modern history book. Nope. We're going to use the table of contents from an ancient text written by someone who lived through it all. Okay, let's get into it.
Our guide for this is the historian Flavius Josephus, and this right here is his work, Wars of the Yehudim, or the Jewish War. What's amazing is that the table of contents itself tells the whole story. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to follow its structure, book by book, to see exactly how this nation's dream of freedom just completely curdled into an absolute nightmare.
And really, that's the big question that just hangs over this entire story. It all starts with this incredible victory, the Maccabean Revolt, which carved out an independent Jewish kingdom. But here's the tragedy. That victory, that moment of triumph, it actually contained the seeds of its own destruction.
So our story kicks off not with some big foreign enemy, but with a family feud. The Hasmonean dynasty, the heroes who won that independence, well, they almost immediately started tearing each other and the kingdom apart.
I mean, think about it. They're fresh off this huge victory. This should be the time they're building up their power, right? But nope. Instead, as Josephus lays out right at the start of Book 1, a bitter civil war breaks out between two brothers, and both of them think they're the one who deserves to be king.
And Chapter 6 of Book 1 really digs into the heart of this mess. On one side, you've got Hyrcanus. He's the older brother, technically the rightful heir, but he gets pushed aside. And on the other side, you've got his younger brother, Aristobulus, who's way more ambitious and just goes ahead and seizes the crown for himself. The whole nation was just split right down the middle, totally paralyzed by this fight for the throne.
So the brothers are stuck. They're at a total stalemate. And they make a decision. A fateful, absolutely catastrophic decision. They decide to ask an outside power to come in and settle their little family squabble.
And who was that outside power? Oh, just the rising superpower of the entire Mediterranean, the Roman Republic. This, right here, was the moment the kingdom voluntarily placed its own neck in a noose.
Josephus is super clear about this. At the end of Chapter 6, he writes that Pompey the Great is made the arbitrator of the dispute between the brothers. Can you believe it? They literally invited the wolf into the sheepfold, and they were hoping he'd just play fair?
And this is where the story just completely flips. In the very next chapter, Chapter 7, we see that Rome's idea of arbitration was actually a conquest. Pompey didn't just pick a winner. He marched his legions right into Jerusalem, took the temple itself by force, and just like that, Jewish independence was over. The Civil War was done, sure, but so was their freedom. So now that Judea is basically a puppet state of Rome, a whole new kind of leader emerges. Not a freedom fighter, not a Hasmonean prince, but a political survivor who knew exactly how to play the new game. Herod the Great.
See, Herod wasn't royalty. He was an outsider, and all his power came directly from his buddies in Rome, guys like Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. His loyalty? It was to Rome first, and that fact defined his entire reign and how his own people felt about him.
And this just perfectly shows you the two sides of Herod. It's wild. Josephus spends chapter after chapter telling us about his incredible achievements, like the magnificent rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem. But then, he spends just as many chapters on Herod's paranoia and his sheer brutality, murdering his own wife, Mariamne, executing his own sons because he thought they were plotting against him. He was a brilliant builder and an absolute monster, all at the same time.
For all his tyranny, Herod's iron fist had kept things stable. So when he died, that stability just vanished with him. All those resentments against Roman rule that had been simmering for decades, they were about to boil over. So let's jump to Book 2 and see how this all goes down.
After Herod is gone, the whole situation just falls apart with shocking speed. You get a series of terrible rulers, corrupt governors, and rising extremism that just creates a perfect storm for rebellion.
Josephus lays out this whole rapid decay for us in Book 2. So first, Herod's kingdom gets broken up. Then, direct Roman rule under guys called procurators, many of them corrupt, just becomes unbearable. Of course, this fuels extremism. In Chapter 13, Josephus talks about the rise of the Sicarii, these dagger-wielding assassins. And the final spark? That comes in Chapter 19, when the Roman governor of Syria, a guy named Cestius Gallus, completely botches an attempt to crush the rebellion and gets his army mauled. To the rebels, this looked like a sign from God. War was on. There was no turning back.
And this, really, is where the story has been heading the entire time. After tracing all the political decay through books 3 and 4, where, by the way, the infighting among the Jewish factions becomes just as deadly as the Romans, we arrive here. Book 5, The Siege of Jerusalem, the final act.
So what this roadmap shows us is that the Great Jewish-Roman War didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It was the end result of over 150 years of internal division, of horrible political mistakes, and of escalating oppression. It was a long, slow-motion catastrophe, and you could see it coming from a mile away.
You know, looking back at this roadmap, a family feud that invites a conqueror, a puppet king who rules through fear, and then this final, desperate explosion of violence, you have to wonder, right? At what point was it too late? Was there any single moment where a different choice could have saved them, or was the road to ruin set from the very beginning?